Hello and welcome to the Passion Show, man.
Oh no!
I caught you by surprise.
No, I was holding it, and then you said, "Oh, right. No, because now I'll laugh now. Because you're expecting to laugh. Right, okay. Let's try again.
Hello.
Hey, I didn't laugh this time. That wasn't me.
Hello and welcome to the Passion Show. My name is Phil, and joining me as always is my co-host Kyle. And this week we're joined by Aaron Boileau.
Hello.
Hiya.
In today's episode, we're talking about politics. So, Aaron, you've just graduated politics, haven't you?
Yeah, I did a undergraduate degree at the University of Liverpool. But I think the interest in politics goes back a number of years before that. So I did it at A-level initially, but I think...
Well, what I want to know is, at what age did you sort of start becoming aware of politics and finding it interesting? Because I know it's been, quite a big thing recently to be interested in politics, isn't it? It's a lot of people are sort of doing their research and getting involved politically, but where did it start for you specifically?
Well, I think when I was growing up, when I was young, I think I always had a sort of innate fascination as to how the world sort of worked in a way. Mm-hmm. So, when I was 6, I was like, hospitals, who pays for them? Roads, where do they come from?
You're just walking down the street going, where did this all come from?
When you were younger and a little bit of money seemed a lot more than it is now.
Yeah.
You'd hear how much someone would make in a job, like £25,000. And as a quick kid, you were like, wow, that's so much money. And then you'd hear on the radio, oh yeah, the government's going to spend $2 billion on something. And I'm like, it was just, how can you afford these things? You know what I mean? Like what are taxes? I think I just had these sort of internal discussions with myself for quite a bit. And I think there are certain things in the world that you're born into. So like the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, we were far too young to know what was going on at the time. So when you're growing up and you're hearing about what's going on, you're like, well, when did this start? Why are we here? You're just born into these things. So at that point, we'd always been in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I was always curious as to sort of how to find. I wanted to know the answers to these questions, I think.
Yeah.
And then
that's quite interesting, though. I wouldn't have thought of that.
Because I think one thing I'd say about politics is that it really does explain, or it helps to explain how the world works.
Yeah.
It explains why things are the way they are. So if I remember 2005, going down to the polling station with my parents, obviously not to vote myself, but they were going to vote. And then I think in 2008 was when obviously I just started high school, and then the financial crash happened. And I just remember watching the news at lunchtime and seeing, stock markets crash, and I'm like, what are these lines on a chart mean? Are we going to run out of money? Are we going to starve to death? That kind of thing.
So at this point, were you aware that it was politics you were interested in, or were you just sort of trying to figure out the world itself?
I think it was. I was always aware of it, but I didn't exactly have a specific interest.
Yeah.
And then I think it just sort of grew over time. So sort of 2010, that was the first general election I was really aware of.
I remember that. I remember it in school.
We had the TV debates as well. They were the first time they happened, and I think that put a very visible face on politics for the first time for me. And then with the coalition government, there was obviously a lot of spending cuts. That was big headlines. I was interested in the defence cuts at the time. I was like, oh, why is the army so small? I was like, why is this happening and all that? So it develops over time, and I think the tipping point in a way was probably around about 2012, 2013 when you spend too much time on YouTube, really, and you end up just getting into the sewer of because videos,
Obama and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I think about Obama as well. Obama getting elected, that was massive news. Obviously, the first black US president, that was massive news. So I think everyone was aware of that at the time.
Mm-hmm.
You remember, George Bush getting shoes thrown at him, which is funnier. The more it goes on, the funnier it is.
Yeah.
So you'd start watching these great speeches, of these politicians, and it's, I enjoy a good speech, some good oratory, so it was really interesting to listen to, and you begin to learn, you hear them talking about these things, you're like, well, what are these? And then I think the point where I got serious was when I started me me AS levels and A levels, and government and politics was not.
This was about the first time I like properly met you was when you started doing your A levels as well.
Yeah.
And I remember like politics being a course in sixth form.
Yeah.
I remember thinking like, I wouldn't do politics, the most boring thing you can think of. But I know over the past few years I've became like more engaged with it, and it's like more interesting to me now. Do you think a lot of people are sort of like becoming more aware of it? Do you think it is like things are changing?
Well, I think especially since the last sort of 5 or so years have been pretty extraordinary political times relative to the previous.
Yeah, it's mental, innit?
The previous sort of 20 years. So, I mean, and I think when I was, one of the things they always say is, "Oh, there's never been a more interesting time to study politics."
Yeah.
So when I started at A level, they went, "Oh yeah, there's never been a more interesting time to study politics." And then when I started my degree, they were like, "Oh, there's never been a more interesting time to study politics." And I know full well that freshers who've just started this year at doing politics, wherever, have been told, there's never been a more interesting time to study politics. So I think young people are particularly engaged with it these days because things like pulling out of the European Union is a major sort of constitutional shift for this country. So I think everyone's really engaged with it, and so I think that just about brings you up to date on my life story of where I've been with politics. Yeah.
What do you think of like party politics itself, like especially here in the UK when you have a real big rivalry between like Labour and Conservative, like, and it kind of it starts to not be about policy anymore and stuff like that. It really just does become like a rivalry. Like, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I think there's always been quite a lot of bitterness, I think, between the two. But I think it's only in the last few years that we've really seen a fall to pieces, really. In terms, I don't know whether it's part of this broader culture war, as people have termed it, or it's something we've imported from the US. But it seems to be more about sort of personality and mudslinging. And one thing I will say is that in this particular election campaign, there's been so much disinformation and just straight up lies, to be honest. I think on all sides, people just seem to be about, we can tell a really simple lie and it'll stick.
Yeah.
Another big part of that is the Russians.
Like, I mean,
in terms of Facebook and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the way social media is these days, and it's very easy for these things to get spread like wildfire. And one thing I've noticed is, particularly on sort of like me Facebook and Twitter feed, is people read the headline and think, "Oh, it sounds horrendous," and then they'll read the first 2 paragraphs maybe and they'll think, "Oh yeah, that sounds horrendous," but then what you'll often find in these newspapers, particularly in sort of the tabloids, whether they're the left-wing tabloids or right-wing tabloids, is that there's always just a little extra paragraph that basically makes the whole point of the article redundant. So, and I mean, to be honest, I think one of the things that I've shifted towards, I think, in terms of policy interest for me is sort of foreign policy and sort of geopolitics. I'm not
like looking at politics on a global scale.
Yeah.
And do you mean that in terms of like working together with other countries and stuff?
I think geopolitics can just be sort of defined as the sort of international relations, but also like not necessarily good international relations. And I think that the way the rise of China, for example, that's interesting because that's going to change. That changes that changes the balance of power, I think, on the world stage. So the Chinese economy is about to be, within the next decade, will be larger than the US economy. That being said, China isn't the Soviet Union, so are we heading for another Cold War? These countries trade with each other so much, but why does China act the way it does?
It's like we understand what China's doing, but we can't do anything about it because we rely on them so much, and they're so scary.
Well, no, I think we shouldn't fall into some kind of like Sinophobia, I think it's, I mean, one of the most interesting things to research when you're talking about sort of international relations is the security dilemma. And that is in a sense that, say, country A thinks, right, well, we're going to buy some weapons to protect ourselves from country B. Country B is like, oh, well, they're buying weapons, they're going to attack us, so we're going to buy some weapons as well. And country A sees that, oh, they're buying weapons C, so it's vice versa. So I think
until the point where everyone's got nuclear bombs pointed at each other.
So you look at Europe in the 21st century, you see Russia, which is not that far out from being in the Soviet Union and suddenly sees NATO countries, countries now joining NATO and encroaching on their borders, so they may think, oh well, they're coming to, they're going to threaten us, whereas so we're going to invade the Crimea and hold that because that's that was always our land, but then Europe would see that as, oh, well, this is Russian aggression, and we're defending ourselves against the Russians. So it's always interesting to, I'm not saying consider it from both sides, but at least acknowledging the...
You're basically saying it's more complex than just like A and B and good and bad and stuff like that. It's really, really complex.
I'm not trying to say there is no good and bad, because let's be honest, there are good and bad, there is right and wrong. But I think on the broader scale, it's not... I'm not saying everyone's got a point, because I think that's actually quite a dishonest argument, I think. But people have reasons. They may be right and wrong reasons. It's just understanding what those reasons are. I think that's the main thing.
So in the next, 2 weeks?
Week and a half.
Week and a half.
Oh my god.
It's going to be the general election in the UK. So we said we wanted to keep this apolitical. So what happens in both scenarios?
Well, I think the scenario that Boris Johnson would want is a Conservative majority, and if he gets that majority, he'll be able to effectively press forward with the Brexit deal and begin the process of withdrawal, etc., and then be in government until 2024 on a 5-year term. That's because of the Fixed Term Parliament Act. Scenario B is a little more complicated, because if it's a hung parliament, which means that no political party has a majority, then, well, I'd like to say I know what happens, but either, Laura Koonsberg at the BBC doesn't know what's going to happen, to be honest, because the Conservatives could try to press on as a minority government.
But would that mean they have less control in their own government, basically?
They would struggle to get legislation through the House of Commons, because they just simply wouldn't have the votes to do it. That being said, there are, or at least there were, a handful of Labour MPs who were willing to back Boris Johnson's Brexit deal. But I think when you look at the broader sort of domestic agenda, then that's going to be even harder for him to get through. So I don't know. I can't give you some concrete answer about what's going to happen. And that being said, the Labour Party could attempt to form some kind of rainbow coalition. That is what they tend to be called, but they'd need the support of the SNP, most likely the Liberal Democrats, as well as possibly even Plaid Cymru, the Welsh Nationalists. So it's all up in the air, and I can't predict. I mean, if you want my honest prediction, I think the Conservatives will be the largest party without a doubt. I don't think there's any scenario in which the Labour Party gets more seats. But whether or not they can actually get a majority is... The polls are all over the place. I mean, at the time we're recording this, the polls either show a hung parliament or a Conservative landslide. So, which one is it? And people are reading into these things a lot, and I think there's been so many surprises over the last few years. So, to 2015, no one thought anyone would get a majority, and even the exit poll didn't say the Conservatives were going to get a majority, and they did. 2016, the expectation was that we'd remain in the European Union. We didn't. 2017, the expectation was the Conservatives would win a huge landslide. It was a hung parliament. So who knows what's going to happen in 2019? I don't think anyone can give you a concrete prediction. I just don't.
Because I kind of just want to know at this point. I'm sick of waiting.
I just want to know whether we should be scared.
If I can give you my... No, you shouldn't be scared.
Okay.
Now, I have certain political preferences, right? But even if the people who I didn't want to win won, I wouldn't like it very much. I'd be really disappointed, but I wouldn't be like, oh, the world's going to end. You know what I mean?
So that's how it's made out on social media,
and that's what annoys me these days, because I think. Again, I'm trying to keep the politics out of this, but I think there seems to be, I'm not being, we're young people, and young people tend to overwhelmingly vote Labour. But then I'm seeing a lot of people sharing things saying, "Oh, the Conservative Party is going to sell off the NHS," which is just completely fucking meaningless buzzword. If I've got to be honest, in my point of view, and the reason why that annoys me is that vulnerable people believe this, And
okay,
so I'm saying like vulnerable people can believe alarmist crap. And there's stuff on from the other side as well. So I'm seeing things like, Jeremy Corbyn supported the IRA, and I'm like, well, no, I wouldn't say he supported the IRA at all. You could make not support. There's a difference between sympathy and support. Now, I could argue that maybe he was sympathetic to the IRA, but support. I think there's nuance as well. You've got to consider nuance, and I think the problem that I have with politics these days is people don't. It's all black and white. It's all good and evil. It's all right and wrong. And I think you've got to take these things on balance.
Yeah.
And and I think the issue is that people have their team and their thing that they back,
Yeah.
and I'm like,
it's like sports, isn't it? It's a rivalry.
This isn't a football match, you know what I mean? Now,
what you were talking about before about like buzzwords and how that can really influence like voters and opinions and stuff like that. I think that's really interesting. Like watching some of the like leaders' debates between Boris and Jeremy, and as if they're mates, you know what I mean? Boris and Jezza.
Yeah.
But there was Boris Johnson was continually asking Jeremy Corbyn where he'd stand on on Brexit if Labour got into government and proposed the deal or staying in the EU. And he was asking him which one he'd campaign for, and Jeremy Corbyn doesn't want to reveal that, obviously, because he'll split the Labour Party. But in Boris asking that, it just makes people more aware that Jeremy Corbyn would want to stay, and then it splits the Labour Party, and you know what I mean?
Well, it's all about tactics. It's not about here's my honest position and here's what I truly believe. It's all
lies.
Well, I wouldn't call it lies. I'd call it half truths. I'd call it perfectly constructed. Because I mean, this is why I don't actually like TV debates as much. They're a performance. Yeah, it's all about. I mean, all right, it's about getting your message across, but it's also about making the other guy look like an idiot. Yeah, you know. So it's
if you can get a big clappy clap from the audience and make him look like a knobhead.
And at home, everyone's thinking, "Oh, they're clapping." You know, do I agree? You know, so I actually prefer sort of one-to-one interviews where someone like Andrew Neil absolutely pins them down and rips them to shreds.
But even things like that don't seem to have much effect because these politicians are still like arrogant in their ways and they still dodge these questions. I'd rather a politician be honest and just be like, I fucked up this time and I did this, but I want to like make change and stuff like that.
It is refreshing, honestly, but I think the reason why a politician wouldn't admit to these kinds of things is that if they say, "Oh yeah, I fucked up," then the thing that's going to be on the headlines is "I fucked up." Oh, look at this refreshing dose of honesty from a politician. It's going to say Corbyn or Johnson admits to this, and this, and you know, one of the things I've noticed this election is again going back to the buzzwords is so you've got the Conservatives saying the cost of Corbyn is £2,400 for every taxpayer because they've worked that out, not because there's going to be £2,400 worth of tax rises on every taxpayer. They've done the accounting on the Labour Party spending. They've said, well, here's what they're going to raise in taxes, and here's what they're going to. So instead of saying, now the Labour Party could borrow that money. Now you might think that's a bad spending decision, but they could. This doesn't mean they're going to raise taxes. But then they're saying, oh, here's this gap. Well, if we divide that between every taxpayer in the country, that's going to be £2,400. But that just completely ignores tax brackets and who would actually face higher taxes, or if the money would be borrowed.
Because the general public doesn't really know how taxes work in that way, do you know what I mean? They don't know the intricacies of what government are doing, so they can just blag anything and say, well, this is what happens.
Here's another thing that's sort of pissed me off, is that people seem to think that income tax is the only way the government takes money off you. So I've seen a lot of people saying, oh, well, no one except the top 5% is going to pay more income taxes under the Labour Party. And I'm like, well, all right, maybe they won't, but you look at the managed allowance, the Labour Party saying they're going to scrap that. You look at increases to corporation tax, dividends tax, things like that. I mean, you don't have to be exceptionally wealthy to have dividends, So it's all about people, what's going to happen to fuel duty. I mean, fuel duty's been frozen for the last 9 years under the coalition and the Conservatives, and then the Labour Party are quite keen to push this, climate message. What are they going? They're probably going to put fuel duty up, so fuel's more expensive. Yeah. So it's again, people just,
which I'd argue is quite good in the long term. To be fair.
Yeah, I mean, it's if that's the view you hold, it's just. I think the broader point is that people don't seem to have any objectivity. So I'm not a member of a political party because I don't like to, because I'm not. So I wouldn't call myself a Tory or a Labour supporter because I'm my own man and I've got my own opinions.
I think there's a bit of a problem with identifying yourself as, a Labour supporter or a Conservative supporter.
It's all religion, isn't it? It's like football teams.
It's a team. That's my team. That's what I believe.
Because when you sign up to join a party, you're committed. You know what I mean? There's no point in reading all the manifestos for a general election.
You're nailing your colours to the mast, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to do that because, again, as I said, I'm my own man with my own opinions, and I'm not going to defend the indefensible. Because very more often than not, with every party, there is the indefensible. So I think with people who maybe don't pay that much attention to it, their political opinions tend to just be the Labour Party's opinions or the Conservative Party's opinions or the Liberal Democrats' opinions. They don't actually have opinions of their own. So, which
is kind of ironic because it's meant to be democracy is meant to work for the people and it's meant to be the people's choices, but it really doesn't seem like that, does it? When they're just getting influenced so much.
I think it was Churchill that said like democracy is like the worst form of government except the rest of them.
Yeah, well, he said. I believe he said the best argument against democracy is a 5-minute conversation with the average voter, and then he also said, and then I think he also said, democracy is also the system you end up with when every other one fails. So,
yeah,
and I mean, one of the things that is shit about our politics is the voting system.
Oh yeah, because, I've talked about this.
Relative to where you live, your vote counts for less. So
it counts for nothing.
Well, yeah,
in some
effectively,
places.
So what we all live in pretty much safe Labour seats.
Yeah,
let's put it that way. So in a sense, there's no point voting. No, you can be the most fanatical Labour the most fanatical Labour Party supporter possible, but there's no point voting Labour because everyone else is voting Labour, and there's no point voting for anyone else because no one else is doing it.
Yeah,
so it's not even a contest. Yeah.
It's because
I still do it because I'm a believer in these things, but civic duty and all that. But it is an exercise in futility.
It's the first past the post voting system. Yeah. It doesn't work because it by nature it wastes votes because once you get to a majority, it doesn't matter for one, and two, like you said, in constituencies that are heavily one-sided, other votes in that constituency don't matter. So they should do like I don't know what this system's called. But it involves like you have like a list. So you have like all the candidates, right? And you list them from your most favourable that you want in power to your least, and you can put as many as you want. So like you could have, if you want to vote for the Green Party or something, you could put Green, then Labour, then Lib Dem or whatever. So let's say Green aren't going to get a majority, that crosses it out and makes Labour your number one and gives Labour another vote.
That was actually
and it means no one's vote is wasted and you can get on more of opinion.
It's called the alternative vote. And that was actually what we looked at in another referendum in 2011.
Because you could still just put one vote.
No, that was overwhelmingly rejected. And to be fair, I can see the merits in the AV system, but I think when you look at the political culture of this country, there isn't that, again, going back to sort of polarisation between Conservatives and Labour, there isn't that cross-party sort of collegiate nature. So, you look at a country like Germany, which has a much more proportional representation system. There is an established political culture there of parties working together. Parties have their natural allies, that kind of thing. Whereas that just doesn't exist here.
It's so confrontational here and it's so aggressive.
So, I mean, if you look at the European Parliament elections, I think I'm sure it's got an official name, but we use a closed party list. So I think they'll compete in a sort of a region. So, like, say, the Northwest would have 8 MEPs to be elected, and effectively, based on percentage of the voters, how many seats are allocated, which is more proportional, but it's not strictly fair. So there's all different kinds of voting systems, and we did it in A-level when we'd go through them all, and what they have in Northern Ireland is effectively designed to be as close as possible to vote, especially given how, that's even about, say you talk about polarisation here, it's like it's a fucking blood feud. how
in Ireland,
Northern Ireland,
in
Northern Ireland, obviously there's so much sectarian divides there. There's no way they could have a system like first past the post, because that would deliver complete control to one side or the other, and then disenfranchise the other. So,
last year, was it this year?
Yeah, it was this year.
So earlier this year, you did an actual placement in the Houses of Parliament in London. So do you want to tell us a bit about your experience of that and seeing it firsthand and stuff like that? Yeah,
so it was the second semester of my third year. One of the things the university offered, which, to be honest, was one of the things that attracted me in the first place, was a Parliament placement scheme where you'd work effectively as an MP's intern.
As lucky.
Well, no, not quite. But, I wasn't just a tea maker, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'd work as an MP's intern effectively. So it was quite a competitive process. You had to have an average of a 2-1, go through sort of comprehensive interview process, and eventually they set you up with a member. So I was living in London for the first semester, which I wouldn't recommend. Just don't live in London. Like, there's nice bits of London, but it's, and I can say good things about London, but Liverpool's better.
I imagine this is like the thick of it.
Well, no, it's not like the thick of it, but it's so Yeah, so I went down. I was paired with an MP, and I think what's so strange about the Houses of Parliament is just how unlike any other workplace that it is. So what you see on the telly, the House of Commons and the Lords and the Palace and all Palace of Westminster, that's all there. But then you go through a tunnel, and then it's like a normal office block.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like there's it's just offices, and some parts of it are actually quite shabby. You know, to be fair, I mean, the Palace of Westminster is probably some of the most beautiful architecture in the country, possibly even in the world.
But next door is a shithole.
Well, I wouldn't call it a shithole, but like it's just this mix of sort of old and new.
Yeah,
that's all the bits you.
Does it just feel dated?
Yeah. So what they've got is Portcullis House, which is where MPs would probably like meet, or Lords even would meet, sort of constituents, school kids, even business representatives. They'd hold meetings there. And that's just like a big conference area, but then obviously you go the stairs and around, and then there's all these office blocks, and most of Parliament, in a sense, is just people working in office blocks.
Yeah,
working in offices. But it's unlike any other place to work. I mean, if you follow your politics, especially as I do, you'd see everyone. Everyone. So I passed Corbyn in the corridor about 3 times.
Whoa.
Yeah, I passed John McDonnell a couple of times. He's a lot smaller in real life than he seems.
Did you say hi to any of them?
It's not. It's not really your place to do that.
I mean, I did think that.
It's a chit chat. There always got people around them, and I passed Boris Johnson in the corridor. This was before he was Prime Minister as well.
Yeah.
And especially if you're into like your journalism, like your political journalists, you'd see just about everyone there. So I saw Laura Koonsberg, Beth Rigby from Sky News, Kate McCann, I think she's working for the Sky News now. You would literally see everyone, and you're almost a bit starstruck.
Yeah.
Eventually, though, you kind of.
It sets in.
You kind of you get used to it, and to the point where you don't really care anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, so like I had a group chat with everyone who was on the placement with, and I was like, just seeing Michael Gove again. Like, just don't care. You know what I mean? I'm just not asked anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's really surreal. Like, but they've got really nice catering. I've got to make a point of this. They've got really nice catering facilities there, because obviously, I mean, one of the things. There's one thing I do see. Everyone says, MPs get subsidised food and drink. All that. Why are we paying for this? They're on 80 grand a year. And I'm like, well, yeah, but what they don't forget is that there's about 20,000 other people working in the Palace of Westminster who are on a lot less wages, who can work till all hours. So that's why they need catering facilities.
Yeah.
And anyway, back to my original point. If you're ever down there and you're having lunch there, try the jerk pork. They do it on Wednesdays, or I think it's Wednesdays or Thursdays. And it is the nicest thing I've ever eaten. It's fucking lovely. So try that. But like, they've got pubs and bars in there as well. Like, it's really strange, and you really do. If you wear like a political, you wanted to be a politician, you could really rub shoulders with some, like, you could do some proper serious networking if you wanted to. Yeah.
So, what would you suggest to people who are sort of interested in politics but don't really know where to start? And obviously, there's a lot of sides to look at. So, how would you look at it as like balance?
Well, to be honest, I don't really know, because when like you study something so in depth and so detailed,
it's hard to
that when you're just looking at the basics, that it's
hard to narrow it down.
You're just like,
it?
Well, come on, you've got to do more than that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just you go so far gone that you don't really know how you like. There's no like Politics for Dummies book you can just read. You know what I mean? Like, one of the things that annoys me is you see things shared on Facebook like, here's all the if you're not sure who to vote for, here's all the manifesto policies summarised in these little handy little graphics, and I'm just like, well, no, because it's and as well when people say, register to vote, I'm like, well, it's not enough to just register to vote. You actually have to know what you're voting on. You know, like, you're not picking a fucking Mackey's order, are you? You're actually, you're deciding the future of the country. It's helpful if you know what you're actually talking about. But see, so when you look at like these things, and I'm just like, well, say party X is going to spend so much on this, like, you've got to know if that's actually a good idea or not.
Yeah.
So if, say, the Labour Party or the Conservative Party say, well, we're going to push the minimum wage up to this amount, you've got to say, well, is that actually a good idea?
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, because I'm like £10 an hour. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll have that. But then, is that not going to cause people to be unemployed because employers can't afford the wage bill? Say we're going to cut this tax or we're going to increase this tax. You've got to actually understand. So, I mean, I think from my point of view, I'm only saying this just because I'm a fucking nerd on this stuff, but you've got to, like, it's not just politics you've got to understand. I think you've got to have a grasp of, like, history. Yeah. Well. So, like, you've got to have a grasp at least an understanding of Britain since sort of 1945, like a basic understanding.
Especially the 80s.
Yeah, well, I was getting that, like a working understanding of what happened since 1979. And then I'd say be fairly up to speed since 1997 or 2010, because obviously these were quite big shifts. And I'm sure any politics course would probably
pinpoint those exact bits.
I mean, I think with politics degrees now, you don't actually have to do politics, because obviously government and politics is quite a niche subject, and a lot of sixth forms don't do it.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy that Capri sauce? It's quite a niche subject, and a lot of sixth forms and colleges won't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's not even just history; it's sort of philosophy as well.
Yeah.
So it's helpful to understand. So, like, the Conservative Party is not very conservative, as contradictory as that sounds.
Mm-hmm.
It's not what you'd call small c socially conservative, like traditional conservatives. The Liberal Democrats they aren't traditional liberals.
Yeah.
Because there's old liberalism, new liberalism. Sometimes these things don't really make sense. So Margaret Thatcher's Conservatives were called neoliberals, but but then George Bush's Republicans were influenced by neoconservatives. So it's all lots of terminology and phrasing, and it's helpful when you're looking at a politician to know what kind of sort of political cloth they're cut from.
Yeah, what angle they're coming from.
You've got to know what their worldview, how they should see the world as well. So now I think that the main issue is that's obviously a ball ache to take all that in.
Yeah.
You can't just soak it all up, and there's no quick way to do it.
Yeah, like you said, there's no guide for it, is there?
And I'm not an expert, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of shit I don't know, and there's times I'll be fucking showing up just because I don't know what I'm on about, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So you never stop learning.
Yeah,
ever.
well, it's because it never stops. It keeps going.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think my politics have shifted all that much. I mean, I've probably shifted a little bit towards the centre.
Mm-hmm.
I think as times have gone on, but what I've learned is massively expanded.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, university, I probably learned a hell of a lot. Like, I don't really know why I went, to be honest. I didn't. Bit of a waste of 3 years, if I'm honest. I'd rather go back and do it now rather than.
Yeah.
But that's another story. But I learned a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
You know? So, to answer your original question, how did you get into politics? I don't really know, to be honest. I'd like to say do your research, but there's so much. There's no limit to the amount you can actually.
You have to be really committed to wanting to get into it.
Because it's not just like saying, "Oh, well, I know this, and this headline told me this," but you've got to know what you like. It's not just about to say know about what Labour are doing on the NHS. You've actually got to understand the NHS.
Yeah. And how it works.
It's not enough to say, "Oh, I like what the Conservatives are doing on taxes." You've got to know what taxes.
Yeah.
Actually, the problem with politics is that it's just such a massive, comprehensive subject. Like we could talk for days.
Yeah.
Straight just on one issue. You know, so it's almost overwhelming.
I think a general message that I'd want to get across is that people should read more. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Understand things more rather than just reading headlines. And I'm guilty of that. I'll read article headlines on on social media and that, and it does it subconsciously triggers an effect on you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's why it's such a big divide. Because,
yeah.
The way Facebook's set up, you receive what you want to receive.
It's so easy.
Yeah, it's so heavily tailored to you and your political opinions.
It's echo chambers. Yeah. You know, people hear things that they agree with.
Mm-hmm.
People will unfollow people or unfriend people who are posting shit they don't like.
There'll be there'll be people who are fully convinced that based on their news feeds that Labour are going to win this election because of how intense the support is.
Well, if you look at Twitter, that's what you'd think.
Yeah,
you know,
that's because when you look at the predictions and stuff, it just it doesn't correlate at all.
And because of that, the personal divide against people is just getting bigger and bigger as well.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, David Cameron,
especially in America.
David Cameron actually said this right in I think it was his conference speech after he won a majority in 2015. He said, let me put it as simply as I can. Britain and Twitter, they're not the same thing.
Yeah.
And there are people who will disagree with you, but that doesn't make them morally inferior.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to debate and to
true, yeah.
To not be as set in your opinions, even though it's hard.
Be open.
Yeah.
And it's a primal thing as well, because you see someone chatting what you think is a load of shite on Facebook, and you're just like, well, I could correct you so easily, and I can show you the true path. So that's why you have arguments with people you've never met online. Not that I do that, but that's why loads of people have arguments with people who they've never met online, just because they can't help being baited into an argument because they're like, well, how can you not see things the way I see things?
Like the Brexit Party and UKIP and stuff understand that they're just taking votes away from other parties, and I don't understand their motive. Like when I watch the Green Party on like TV debates, I just think, what is the point? Like the Lib Dems and that, I'm like, what are you doing? You're not going to fucking win.
Because I think
Dems are more centrist.
I think they appeal to different voter groups, because if you look at UKIP, even though it was always thought, UKIP is this cousin offshoot of the Conservative Party, and they're going to cause the Conservatives to lose votes. And in many cases, they did take votes off the Conservatives, but one of the party that I think UKIP in 2015 hurt the most was probably the Labour Party.
Yeah.
And in certain constituencies, the Brexit Party is, if anything, more of a home for people who could never vote Tory in their lives, but hate the Labour Party, so they're going to vote for the Brexit Party. So it's, but then you look at parties like the Greens. The Greens have actually, in a sense, been impacted by sort of Jeremy Corbyn's leadership, because Jeremy Corbyn is quite sort of hard left.
Yeah.
So, and the Greens were always further left than the Labour Party. But then, see, the Liberal Democrats are interesting because they're like, oh well, obviously a party of Remain, but. So they thought, well, we're obviously not going to get into government, so we can come out and chat this shite, saying, oh yeah, we're going to revoke Article 50 unilaterally, we're going to cancel Brexit, we're going to stick our heads in the sand like it never happened. You know what I mean? And just go on like nothing ever happens. But the problem that's a policy has actually backfired on them, because they were trying to appeal to Remain voters, like hardcore Remain voters, and in some ways they've succeeded. But with a lot of voters, they've thought, even Remain voters, they've said, well, that's not democratic, is it?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, all right, I didn't vote Brexit. All right, I might hate leaving.
But I don't think
with a passion. But I can't stomach you doing that.
I don't think the vote for Brexit was very democratic, though. It was a 49 to 51. It was
52 to 49.
No,
all right, but you know what I mean?
Actually,
difference of 2%.
But I mean, that's how it works, though. And it's democracy. There's winners and losers. No, I mean,
I don't think it's fair to say half of the country is losers. You know what I mean?
Well, there are. You have to make a decision, don't you? You know what I mean? I think ultimately, there's you're never going to get the whole country to agree on everything. When people say, "Oh yeah, we're going to bring people together,"
but then again, a lot of people didn't vote. So does it represent the whole country?
But then again, in a democracy,
and then it's their fault for not voting.
Well, in a democracy, my opinion is this: if you don't vote, you don't count. You know what I mean?
I agree with George Carlin, the late great.
What did he say?
He said, if you don't vote, then you got the right to complain. People who vote and the person that they vote for wins, then they can't complain.
Yeah, but if you do vote and the person you want to vote doesn't win, you can complain,
so
surely.
It's saying you voted for him. You know what I mean? That's what you deserve.
That only works when the person you vote for fucks up in government.
Yeah, but everybody does fuck up in government.
Well, yeah, obviously.
The iron law is that all political careers end in failure.
Yeah, it is.
Sooner or later.
It's made out on social media and stuff that Labour is going to, change shit for the good, and I'd like them to and stuff like that. I you know what I mean?
Sooner or later, it'll all go tits up.
Yeah, it will all
go tits up. It'll all go tits up. Especially as... Well, the global economy, one way or another, is about to go into backslide again. So I wouldn't want to be in government for the next 5 years, if I've got to be honest.
Everything is fucked.
No, it's not. Because, and that's why I don't... My broader point is that I can't stand this alarmist stuff.
Yeah.
Saying, the world's going to end if this party gets in, and bollocks.
It'll just carry on.
Yeah, things will go on. All right, things will be difficult. There'll be a whole new set of issues. There's always winners. Well, there's always, as I said, no matter what party is in government, there's always losers, and there's always issues. Like any politician, left or right, that tries to sell you this belief that the world will be perfect under them, and everything's going to be fine, and they'll fix everything, and we're going to have some utopian society that's chatting out their ass. Frankly, it's not going to happen. There's always going to be winners and losers. Now that's not right, and you can work on that, and there are certain injustices you can limit or get rid of entirely, but there's no utopian paradise, and I'm not being morbid there. That's just being realistic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So I think to sort of round things off,
shall we? Didn't kill himself. Bush did 9/11.
Shall we give our predictions on what's going to happen on December 16th? Is it
12?
Oh my god! Should we give our predictions?
Okay.
Or just what we think is going to happen? Mine's not really informed. I don't know as much as I should do, but should we go for it? Should we start with you, Kyle?
I'd prefer if Labour won,
Yeah.
Don't think that's going to happen though.
Yeah, I think the Tories will just get in with the majority, probably.
I think. See, I don't want to make a prediction because things.
Yeah,
if I had to make a call, I'd say a slim to
Majority.
moderate majority, but
Yeah.
it could just as easily be up in Parliament. There's no way to predict. Politics is also really boring now, by the way. I got so fucking sorry. If I can go on one last little fucking to make it an extra or edit it in somewhere else. Politics is fucking boring. I used to love it. I used to fucking love. I lived and fucking breathed it. But then I don't know what it was. Maybe it was because of Brexit just going around the circle.
Yeah,
but I got so fucking bored having the same discussion over and over again. And again, I'm trying not to be too fucking depressing, but like. You're never going to change anyone's mind, if I've got to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really... 95% of people, if they are your intellectual equal, or if they are as informed as you, you're never going to change your mind.
There's no chances.
Even if you beat them in a debate. even if like, I've got your bank to rights there, they're not going to change the fucking mind.
Yeah.
So, give up. Don't discuss politics with anyone. It's never going to work.
Politics is bullshit. We'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Why does Boris Johnson and Donald Trump look the same? Are the aliens?
Why did they look? Well, they don't look the same, do they?
They got blonde toothpaste.
Well, there's about 20 years between them.
It's because they're Slovene.
There's about 20 years between them.
They are the Slovene.
They're not the fucking Slovene.
Did you see any Slovene when you went to Parliament?
Did I see any fucking... No.
You wasn't looking out for them?
Saw a couple of lizards.
You see anyone unzip their heads?
No, I didn't see anyone
Bathroom.
unzip
Yeah,
their
he's in the cubicle, and the cubicle next to him's full of blue light.
I got absolutely shit-faced a couple of times in Parliament.
Oh my god.
All these free events, free bars. Oh, I went to one event that I didn't even want to go to, but I just went to a free bar. So... just beer, one after the other.
Did you have...
And then I went on to the wine eventually, like champagne, a little bit of the bubbly. A little bit of the bubbly. And I was just fucking throwing it down my neck. I was stumbling out. When I was down there, they actually didn't have all that much work for me to do.
Oh, really?
Well, they did, but like the backlog, I cleared the backlog quite quickly.
Oh, fair enough.
Eventually I was just like, yeah, you can just fucking go home if you want to. Or, well, one of the things about Parliament is that they've also got like committee meetings and things that you can go to. Mm-hmm. So like I'd attended things that were interesting to me,
Fair enough.
So like I'm quite interested in sort of defence policy, so I do things like that.
Do you think that you're going to go into a career of politics?
No,
not at all.
I wouldn't want to be a because I'm trying not to sound like a sociopath here, but like I don't care enough about people. And I don't mean that in a cruel way, because like I can show you two or people who I know, or even a person I meet on the street, I can show them all the compassion and love in the world, you know what I mean? But when it's 67 million people, like I don't have the emotional bandwidth.
You haven't got the answers,
I don't have the emotional bandwidth for that, you know what I mean? Yeah. It just reaches a point where I'm like, it's not my fucking problem, mate, you know what I mean? Sort your shit admin out and leave me alone.
Well, I think on that note. Oh, you did me there. So I think on that note we'll wrap it up there. So thanks to Kyle as always for being my co-host.
Thank you, Phil.
And thanks to Aaron for coming on.
Thanks
the long awaited, our biggest fan.
Well, I should come back and chat more shit.
Yeah, sounds good. So if you have any passions yourself that you want us to talk about, feel free to leave them in the comments, because we'd love to talk about them.
Or hit us up in the DMs if you want to come on the show yourself.
Yeah, if you do want to come on the show, do what Aaron did and send us a message. Yeah. And we will get you on, because we're always looking for guests.
Yeah.
But other than that, we'll see you next time.
Thank you.